In this tutorial in Cyberlink PowerDirector, I'd like to share with you 3 different techniques that you can use to create lower thirds in your projects. Lower thirds are very common when you have a personality on the screen and you want to identify who they are, as you see on the screen here. They're also very common when you're trying to highlight something about your company or a product, and so you can highlight something special using a lower third. We're going to show you 3 different ways in which you can design a lower third. So look at the following clip. It's going to show you some examples, and then I'll show you a bit about how to use these different techniques for lower thirds in your productions. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is take one of the most common ways we use it, which is to use simply a title called lower thirds. So I'm going to go into my titles room in the upper left corner, and I have one called lower third. Now when I open this up, I find I have a lot of titles that for me don't really qualify as a lower third, because they can be moved to the lower third of the screen, but they are not all that useful because they are motion graphics, many of them, and they tend to draw a lot of attention to themselves. Now the one I have used in the example here is this one, because it seems to be more of a conventional type lower third. So let's start out with that one and see what we can do. I'm going to take this and I'll drag it down. You notice I've marked it as a favorite. It has a heart in the lower right corner. And we'll reclaim our space here, and I'll click on it. Now this is the default when it starts out. So I want to get into the edit mode on this, and I can change all kinds of things. I can change the word news. I'm going to change this to spotlight, and it will accommodate the size to the panel here. Your title, and I can edit on the left. In fact, I prefer to do that. We can call this one Iowa Newsline. And then for the add your title here, let's use that for our personality. And then we'll use the to make videos. We'll give him a title here. We'll call him a social influencer. Now that you can do more than that. You can actually change the colors of any of these titles. For example, this Randall Cunningham one that I have here, I'm going to change this, and we'll change this to kind of a yellow color. I can change the font family if I want to. Let's make it something lighter. If I want to change the colors, I can go into the graphic group, click on blue, and I can change that to a different color. Maybe I want that to be green. I'll click on OK. Now it will change both of them, not one of them. This one I want black. Maybe I don't want it quite so dark. Maybe we'll click a darker blue. See how that works. Lighter blue. Medium. Okay. So you can change that. You can change the color of graphic group number 3. Maybe I may even make that gray. So you can make any color combinations you want with some limitations. And we can take this and we can move it down and shrink it down. We don't want it to dominate the screen, but just to give enough information. And put it left, right, wherever we'd like to on our video. So that's how you can use one of these. Now let's try another one. I want to pick another one deliberately in order to show you surprising things you can do. I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to go to my other options here. I have some here that are in Japanese, and I particularly, being in America, I'm not using a Japanese element, but I can still use these titles. Let me show you why. I'm going to download a brand new one here and click and put it here. And in order to make the changes, I get on the edit mode of that title. I'm going to change the font, and then I type in something else. And we still have all the benefits of the motion graphic, even though I cannot speak or read Japanese. So we can use this any way we want. We can also change the grouping here. Maybe I want this to be brighter. And we can stretch it out, realizing that we still have to work a little bit with our graphic limitations. So you have some options when it comes to some of these that might surprise you. So don't stick only to your native language. That really doesn't apply. The other thing you can do when it comes to the box is you can change the scale by using the sliders. And you can even rotate it if you want. We won't. You can make it left, centered, or right. And obviously make other edits as you wish. So those are two options if you want to go right into what I would call technique number one, which is using the lower thirds titles. We'll get back to here. So these are all in the lower thirds. Some of them I think work well. Some of them I think don't work at all. If I tried this one here, I really don't think that that qualifies as a lower third, for example. In my plain text category, go to the top, drag down a generic my title. Now what I want to do is put it near the bottom. It's going to be a lower third. And in this case, I need to do advanced editing. So I'm going to click on the My Title, click on the Edit button on the left side, and then click on Advanced. We'll put the gentleman's name in again, and this time we're going to add another feature. We're going to add what's called a backdrop. So I have options here. I'll click on Backdrop. It will give me a backdrop, and I have 5 different options. I can do something that's slightly rounded corners, very rounded corners, perfectly square, elliptical, or all the way across the screen. Now this is a common one you'll see in a number of cases. Let's take this one, but let's change it. Let's change the color. You can use a solid or a 2-color gradient. You can even use an image, but we'll use a solid color for now. And let's take this one here. And then I'm going to change the opacity back. That's a very common technique. So you can see through the bar. Now the other thing you have to notice is on the ascending and descending elements of the name, you see above the H, but the G is very much at the bottom. Then that's when you use the offset option, the slider on the left side, to move this up or down. You can also change the entire width of it to make it wider or not. If I want to make it really, really tight, I can shrink it down a little bit. And there we go. The other thing I would do on some of these, for example, when it comes to the actual lettering, is I will often find myself saying I want to use a shadow. And it'll be a very small shadow, maybe 1.2, just enough to make it stand out a little bit on the background. And I could use that one there. And here I have this one coming in. Now the other thing I can do is if I'm using this banner option, let's go back to it for a second. I have the banner and the backdrop active. If I use the backdrop option and I click on animation and try to animate, it says it will remove the backdrop. Does that limit me? The answer is no. I'll cancel out of that. So what I can do, instead of using an animation, I can go into my transitions and I can take any transition I want. Let's take this blur, and I can put the transition on the title, and so when I look at it this way, my lower third transitions in everything at once. So that's a way you can cheat the system, as it were. Let me show you one other option that we have. This is what I call my third technique when it comes to lower third titles. We'll take our generic My Title, drag it down again. Only this time I'm going to put it one more track down because I'm going to also go into my media room and click on my color boards. And we'll select the color board. Let's take something gold. And we'll change our color board. I'm going to click on it and edit the properties. I can fade it in or fade it out. I'm going to turn the opacity down so I can see where my title is. And so I'll take the title, move it on top of my color board, enter the gentleman's name, and then I think I'll shrink that down just a little bit. Okay, put it down here, click back on my color board, and we'll move it. I can cover the whole screen, or I can just cover 3/4 of it, any percent that I want. I can move it up and down slightly using the arrow keys. And then what I also would like to do in this case is I'd like to take that color board and change the opacity, make it a little more visible. There we go. And then again, what I would often do in this case is take the name, go back to one of my favorite techniques, take the shadow, and do a 1.2. And here we have our color board. And we haven't used a banner. We could also use transitions on the front end of it, anything like that. Those are 3 techniques you can apply when you're working with lower thirds. You can use the titles in the lower third group. You can use a regular title with a banner, or you can use a regular title using a color board to create a lower third in your project.